such a beautiful comment.
Remark, yes.
We have the opportunity. We got to work hard. So, we got to wake up extra early. It's okay. It's good. It's good. Rabbi,
Mm,
motivation.
great. I like to say life is opportunity. A person's
Absolutely.
alive, they have the opportunity, they have the ability to accomplish, to do great things. That's what life. That's what people have to realize to take advantage. Okay, so we're on 28b3, and Asaf has joined us as well. Tilat, the Mishnah states, Tilat habegesh kipla v'lo hava. Now we have something called tuma. A garment, receives has the ability to receive contamination, right? Since it's a garment. Good morning,
Morning.
Anna. We learned about different types of contamination. We spoke about a garment receiving contamination through leprosy, a garment receiving contamination through a corpse, a garment receiving contamination through a sheret, one of the teeming animals like the lizard or whatever, however they translate, the mouse. Those eight shrotzim, if they're dead and they come in contact with the garment. So there are different situations of contamination that a garment has the ability to receive contamination. Now, if something, but there is a minimum we saw when it comes to wool and linen, we saw when it comes to leprosy, and we saw wool and linen requires a minimum of a garment the size of 3 fingers by 3 fingers in order for it to receive contamination, right? Something that's less than 3 fingers, let's say a finger, that's about an inch or so. Something that's less than 3 fingers by 3 fingers, if you have such a garment that's smaller than that, that's called insignificant. That's people throw that in the way in the garbage. It's a scrap that's not even used as a patch, so it doesn't have significance. Doesn't have significance. It cannot receive contamination, right? That's what we said about a garment. Now, the Mishnah talks about a garment, that a piece of a garment that was folded over and made into a wick. For the use, you want to use it to light it up as a wick. But that's what the Mishnah says. Tilat habeged shekipla, a piece of a garment that was folded over, v'lo hava, but you did not singe it with fire. Because to complete the general process, usually what you do when you want to make a wick, you go ahead and you singe it. You have a little fire goes on it, and that fire going on it makes that wick now very usable in a very positive way, very easy to light. Now the Gemara is understanding that a wick itself is not something that receives contamination. Some explain because the wick itself is not serving. The wick it's not used for itself. It's used to serve a flame, and the flame is not even something that you could hold. So therefore, the wick itself is not subject to contamination. The question here in the Mishnah is that the the fold did you this act of folding up the garment and rolling the garment to make it into a wick, but you did not yet do that last step that's generally done as a wick, which is the singeing of the wick. Do you is this has this garment lost its status already as a garment? Meaning, if you would have singed it, you would fold it up and singe it. Now it's no longer a piece of a garment. It now has changed to a wick. And now, once it changed to the wick, it will not be susceptible. It cannot receive contamination in that state. But since you didn't singe it, so maybe, and you could really unfold it if you want, Simon, and make it back to that patch, that piece of garment that could be used as a patch. Would that make it that it still retains its identity, its old identity of a, you know, we have ID tag. What are you? Are you a wick or are you still a garment? So that's the question. Do you look at the fact that it can be unrolled and go back to its original state in the easy fashion, and if it's still considered a garment, or you say no? At the end of the day, it's been rolled. for the use as of a wick, and maybe it's already lost its status of a garment in this state. So that is the discussion, and there's actually an argument in the Mishnah. Tilat beged, a piece of a garment, shekipla, below of haba, that you went ahead and you folded it, and you did not singe it with fire in order that it should light well. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Tamehi, Rabbi Eliezer says that it's lost its status, it retains its status of a garment, and therefore Tamehi, it still has the ability, good morning, good to see you, it still has the ability to receive contamination in this state. But another halacha, he says, good morning, Ralph. Another halacha, he says, is ve'ein madlikin ba. You can't use this wick that was folded and not singed. You can't use it for candles. For the Mishnah understands at this point for Shabbat candles. You want to use this as a wick for Shabbat candles? You can't. And the Gemara is going to need to explain to us why, by the fact that it's still a garment, why can't you use it as a wick? So we're going to have to see what is the connection, and why are these two laws? What's the connection between these two laws? Is there a connection, and why can't you use this wick that was folded over? Rabbi Akiva says, Tahorehi. Rabbi Akiva says that once you folded this garment, now it's in the state of a wick, even though you didn't singe it to make it light well, but it's lost the status of a garment, and therefore, since it's lost the status of a garment, it's no longer susceptible to contamination. Umadlikin ba. And you could use it for Shabbat, for the Shabbat candles. That's what the Gemara wants to say. So now we're gonna have a very special guest. Joey Habert, make yourself comfortable. Here's a Gemara. Okay. So the Gemara is going to ask the following question. Bishlam al-inyan tuma. The Gemara says regarding tuma, just to bring Joey up to date, we just said a very famous Mishnah from Bama Madlikin that Friday night many people say Madlikin. You said Birkat Shacha, not yet. Let's say Birkat Shacha first. We don't start up with Birkat Shacha, right? Right, everybody? Meaning, at least when I say Birkat Shacha, I mean at least Birkat Torah, right? Right, because we need. Yeah. Right, very good. So the Gemara says, now, but anyone have any questions of what we just said? Ralph, Asaf, Ronnie, Adam, Simon, any questions of what we just said? Everything is very clear? Okay, we like when things are clear. So the Gemara says, I understand when it comes to contamination, what are they arguing when it comes to contamination? Whether it still retains its status. Rabbi Eliezer holds, kipul eina mo'il. The folding of the garment to become a wick, if it was not singed yet, it's not enough to leave its original status. It's still in its original status as a garment, it remains. Rabbi Akiva holds kipul mo'il. Rabbi Akiva holds the folding helps. The folding helps that it lost the status of a garment. Ubetule batil. And it became batil, it became nullified from the status of a garment. Ela le'inyan hadlaka. The Gemara wants to understand regarding hadlaka, regarding lighting, b'maik pligi. This is what the Gemara is concerned, trying to understand. What are they arguing about regarding lighting? What's the issue of using this wick for Shabbat candles? Just like I said, I'll bring Joey up to date. We have a famous Mishnah that says, Tilat habega shekipla below hava. If you have a piece of a garment, 28b, 3. You can have a piece of a garment that was folded over to make it into a wick, but you didn't yet singe it. You didn't put a fire on it. The fire on it, by the way, makes it light very well. You should know, by the way, even on Shabbat, every Shabbat, there are some people that the husband lights Shabbat candles, meaning he wants to be involved in the mitzvah every Shabbat. As soon as by Hasidim, that there's a mitzvah to be involved in preparing for Shabbat, right? I mean, a person's a married man, person's single, he's obviously involved in getting ready for Shabbat. But a guy who's a married man, it might be working, and it might be working, and his wife taking care of the preparation for Shabbat. It's a person supposed to do something in honor of Shabbat himself. He's supposed to be involved in the preparation of Shabbat. The Gemara says Rava salted the fish. This other person cut the wood. Other rabbis, great rabbis, I mean, did different things in honor of the Shabbat. This person, what he does, I saw in his house. I once was a guest in his house. He lit the wicks, maybe, and then he blew it out. You familiar with that, Simon?
Right.
And what's the point of that?
They burn much better.
They burn much better when the
wax
when the wife would go in and light it, to catch right away. You ever heard such a thing, Joey? You seen that? Some people do. Yeah, right. So some people do that. They want to be involved in the lighting. So the singeing of the fire really prepares it very well. Now, here we're talking about you taking, let's say, a linen garment, because the Gemara said before that wool, to use wool as a wick wouldn't be good. It doesn't catch well. But linen, so you're taking linen and it's a harder substance, and you want to soften it up for burning. So by singeing it, that will go ahead and prepare it very well, that it should light very well. So if you went ahead and you folded a garment and folded the linen and then you singed it, then everybody agrees it's no longer a garment, it's a wick, and it's not mekabel tumah. It won't receive contamination. But the case of the Mishnah is tilat habega shekipla. You folded the garment, you made it into a gvovaloiv hava, but you did not singe it. And that's the question at this state, that it's already folded over, that it loses status of a garment and therefore will not be able to receive contamination from a dead mouse or whatever, or other types of forms of contamination, or it still receives contamination until you singe it. That's the first argument in the Mishnah. But now the Gemara is discussing the second law of the Mishnah. Then the second law of the Mishnah was that there's an argument whether you could use this for Shabbat candles or not. This wick that you went ahead and you folded over the garment and you did not singe it, could you use it for Shabbat candles? Now, one says you could, one says you can't. What's the argument? If it doesn't work well as a wick, you shouldn't be able to use it, because maybe you're going to be afraid that maybe Shemay Yateh, maybe you're going to move it on Shabbat and fix it on Shabbat. But what are they arguing about when you fold it over the wick and you did not singe it, whether you could use it for Shabbat? What's the argument? Whether one says you could use it for Shabbat candles, one says you can't use it for Shabbat candles. That's what we're up to in the Gemara. That is the 28b3, the first column, about 6 lines on the bottom. In the article, El Inyan Hadlaka, and in the Hebrew, it's in the Gemara. It's about 4 lines into the Gemara. El Inyan Hadlaka, but my pligi. What are they arguing about regarding using this as Shabbat candles? So comes the Gemara. There are going to be different approaches that the Gemara is going to bring to explain what the Mishnah, the meaning of this argument. So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Elazar, Amar Rav Oshia, V'chein Amar Rav Ada bar Ahava, Halcha over here, the Gimel al Gimel mitzum samot askina. We're talking about a garment which is exactly 3 fingers by 3 fingers. And if it's 3 fingers by 3 fingers, let's say 3 inches by 3 inches, something that's the size of a patch. If it's less than 3 fingers and 3 fingers, it's not a garment. It's a scrap that you throw in the garbage. It's not enough even to use. Even the poor people, the Gemara says that poor people would use this as a patch. The rich people would throw it out in the garbage, the size of a thing. But the fact that for poor people it's used, so it's still considered a garment. So, but we're talking about it's 3 fingers by 3 fingers. Okay, so it reached still at the amount that could receive contamination. So what's the issue about lighting with it? But Yom Tov shachal liot erev Shabbat askina. We're talking about Yom Tov that comes out on a Friday. So when Yom Tov comes out on a Friday, so you're going to make this wick before Yom Tov. You can't make the wick on Yom Tov. You can't make a utensil on on Yom Tov. You can't create utensil on Yom Tov. So they made the wick before Yom Tov. Okay. So now it's Yom Tov. Let's say Yom Tov started Thursday night. Friday was Yom Tov. Now we're Friday afternoon. So it's Yom Tov. But we light Friday afternoon before Shabbat. You light the Shabbat candles on Yom Tov for Shabbat, right? So now when you light the candle, the moment you light the candle, this light the wick. This wick now is no longer 3 fingers by 3 fingers. So what you have done is you have broken. Now, if we say that it retains the status of a garment, right? The first opinion in the Mishnah of Elazar says Tameya, that it still retains the status of a garment, even though you folded it over to make a wick. But since you didn't singe it, it's still a garment. So now, but why is it a garment? It didn't lose the status of a garment because it still has the threshold of 3 fingers by 3 fingers. But the moment you light that wick, it's when you light it, it's no longer going to be 3 fingers by 3 fingers. Okay, so what's the issue? The issue is nolad. Nolad is now this item becomes a broken item. If it was a garment beforehand, and now there's a change of status, because it went from being a garment, which is a utensil, to be now that because it was 3 fingers by 3 fingers, it still had the status of a garment. It's no longer a garment now. Why is it no longer a garment? Because now it's less than 3 fingers by 3 fingers. Okay, so what's the problem? I'm using it for Shabbat candles. What's the problem? But the problem is the Gemara says that you have to light the wick, the majority of the wick that's out of the oil. You have to light the majority of the wick to make sure that it lights very well. If you only light a little bit of the wick, then it's a concern that that's not going to light well, and it's not going to flame. It's not going to go up properly.
Light it and it catches the whole wick.
Right, but sometimes when you light it, if you just light and you step and you move your hand away, it might not catch well, right? Because it's very small. So you have to keep you have to make sure when you're lighting it, keep it there until the majority, the Gemara says, of the wick is on fire. That's the case, then once you lit a little bit of this wick and it's no longer a garment, it became nolad. It's something that's called like a broken utensil now something that broke, and you're lighting it and you're moving it. Let's say it's Yom Tov. Something broke on Yom Tov. You see, if a glass jar breaks, the reason why you could pick up the piece of a glass jar is because it's dangerous, someone might get hurt. But if it wouldn't be dangerous, it's really mukseh, because beforehand this jar was a usable utensil, right? I was keeping my pickles in the jar. Now the jar broke, what fell on the floor, it's not usable, right? So
why don't you say now it's a wick before it wasn't a wick? Also don't love you.
Right. But still the fact that it's still not, but we're holding that a wick is not called a utensil. It's not like even though we do use it, but we're holding it. It's still changed. It's not what it originally was before. So maybe the Gemara is holding that's still called. You're saying what do you mean? Still using it as a wick?
No,
So,
I'm saying before it was a patch.
right.
Now it's a wick. So that's the nolad. Now it's a wick. That's the problem.
Right.
Not that it's a broken
Right.
patch. That it's a wick.
Right. That is the nolad. But we're using that as an example. What's called? I'm giving you an example. What's called nolad. So therefore, that now it's a new entity that has come here that wasn't here before, and therefore, Rabbi Eliezer holds 6:45. So Rabbi Eliezer holds, therefore, you cannot use it for a lighting on Yom Tov, for Shabbat, on Yom Tov, because you're handling it. When you keep on lighting it, that wick, that's no light. However, the other opinion, who says that it's Tahorahi, the opinion that says that once you folded the wick before the Yom Tov, when you prepared the wick, it became no longer a garment. So it's already it's not an it's therefore so before Yom Tov it already changed into the status like of a wick, like you said before. It's a wick. It's a wick, and I'm using a wick. I could use a wick. It's not muksa by itself. The only issue with muksa was if it became a new entity. And because I held that before Yom Tov, it already, even though it wasn't singed before Yom Tov, it already became it lost the status of a garment already beforehand. So there's no new status that I'm creating now on Yom Tov, on Yom Tov, when I'm lighting it before Friday afternoon. Therefore, I could use it on Yom Tov. It's not an issue of handling something that was nolad, that was created. So that's what the Gemara says.
So, Rabbi, you need an existing flame, right, to light that?
Right, you need existing flame. In order to light that fire on Friday afternoon, since it's Yom Tov, you have to
Right.
light from an existing flame. Correct. So the Gemara says, "B'Yom Tov shechal liot erev Shabbat askina." It's talking about Yom Tov that comes out on a Friday. The Kuli Alma Itlu Rabbi Yehuda. Everybody holds the Rabbi Yehuda the Amma Masikim B'Kelim. You could use something that was a utensil. You can actually use a utensil that was a proper utensil, and then you want to go ahead and use it on Yom Tov and light on it for Shabbat. Yom Tov comes out on a Friday. You could use a utensil, but you can't use the Masikim B'Shivri Kelim. But if it was broken, morning Asaf, good to see you. But if it was broken, you can't use something that was broken on the Yom Tov, on Nolad. And Kuli Alma, and everybody holds, both opinion holds. We have a seat next to Simon. Kuli Alma, and everybody holds. Itlu Ula. Everybody holds of Ula. Everybody holds of Ula. What does Ula say? Ula Hamadlik, when you're lighting for Yom Tov or for Shabbat, Hamadlik, let's move for Shabbat at least, because it's a concern that if you're lighting the Shabbat count, you might come to move it. Hamadlik Sarosh Yadlik Barova Yotzei. You have to light that the majority that's coming out from the oil to make sure that it's going to if you light the majority of it, then you know it's going to remain proper. If you light only a little bit of the wick, maybe that wick will need adjustment and might come to a chas v'shalom Shabbat adjusted. So therefore, the kivon the adlik and therefore kugam is the ula. Everyone holds the ula the ula that's what Shadik Rabbi Yotzei. If the light majority that comes out, Rabbi Eliezer holds kipol eino moil. The folding of the garment does not help that it lost the status of a garment. It's still a garment. The kivon the adlik porta. Since you lit a little bit, and since it was only exactly 3 fingers by 3 fingers, there's no that little lighting makes it goes down, loses the status of a garment. And havile shevekli, it's called a broken garment. And now that when you're lighting, when you continue with the wick as it gets to light the majority of the wick, b'shevekli kamadlik, you're lighting on it with a broken utensil, the nolad, and it'll be an issue of mukseh. Rabbi Akiva holds, kipul moil, that the folding that you folded this garment before Yom Tov on Thursday afternoon to make it into a wick, it already changed the status before Yom Tov. It didn't break on Yom, it didn't change on Yom Tov. It already was changed before Yom Tov by you folding it and folding it into a wick, even though you didn't singe it, and therefore the ain't Torah clear love. There's no nolad. It's not considered a kli. It's not a garment from before Yom Tov. And now when I'm lighting on Friday afternoon on Yom Tov for Shabbat, I'm lighting a piece of wood. You can light a piece of wood before Shabbat. Therefore, that's why I'm allowed to go ahead and use it. So that's the argument whether I can use the Shabbat candles or not. Have a great day, everybody. All the best.
One holds the folding, makes it already a kli from before.
One holds it that it's folding changes the status.
Yeah,
it's no longer. It's no longer. One other person.
Only when you singe it do you make the nolad.
Only singeing makes it into a new utensil, and therefore, and you didn't singe it, still the old status of, and therefore, now when you light it, now you change the status.
What's the final outcome of the?
We have to halacha. We have to look up the Shulchan Aruch. Want to,
I'd like to use candles today, anyways.
yeah, so we have to look up that lot.
Nobody's living with.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Have a great day, everybody. All the best, everybody. Thank you. Take care, Ralph.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
See you too. Bye-bye.